We all have our own biases of how things work. Like how would I design things, like why would I design things in a certain way? Because in my head, I'm the one who's gonna use it. But in reality, right, what about everybody else? How are they gonna use this product?
In your team, you need to create that safe space that they can say whatever they want to say within the context of work pa rin, syempre. Like, if there's a certain process that needs to be cut, or if they think that we're having too many meetings in a week, sige, let's consider removing stuff.
Most of us are using mobile devices. Most of us are spending time online. So, cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
We all have our own biases of how things work. Like how would I design things, like why would I design things in a certain way? Because in my head, I'm the one who's gonna use it. But in reality, right, what about everybody else? How are they gonna use this product?
In your team, you need to create that safe space that they can say whatever they want to say within the context of work pa rin, syempre. Like, if there's a certain process that needs to be cut, or if they think that we're having too many meetings in a week, sige, let's consider removing stuff.
Most of us are using mobile devices. Most of us are spending time online. So, cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Hello. Hi everybody, this is Michaela from Sri Lanka. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay, great. I know that I'm heard. Can I know what's the audience today is like? Can I know what you do? Hi Ingrid. Okay, super. You can hear me. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about how to do a remote usability test. Okay, so you can see my screen. I'm not sure what the today's audience is like. I'm not sure whether you're an UX expert or you are into UX. I hope you can tell me in the long run. So let's get started. When it comes to designing user experience, we all, as UX designers, have to go through a UX process. So the UX process looks like this for us in the company. But keep in mind that these processes change from company to company depending on the company size, what they do, and the project size. Also, the UX experts you have. So the first step is research, analysis, and then design foundations, visual design, and validation. So since I'm going to talk about remote usability test, it falls under validation. So all of these first 4 stages are passed when you come to validation. So the reason why I wanted to talk about remote UTs is because due to this COVID-19 situation, we are unable to go and test with the products with users. So normally what we do is we recruit people and then have one-on-one interviews and then discuss about the usability issues. But at this point, it seems that we are unable to do so. So this is the next best alternative. Having a remote usability test done is really great other than not doing. So let's talk about why we actually need to test something. So as UX designers, people might think that we just prettify things, but that's not the truth. We solve problems. So when we test, we know that whether we are testing whether we are solving the correct issue or whether we are doing something wrong. So that's why we really need to test. People, UX designers consider testing, the validation phase, as the holy grail because that's where we find most of the issues because we are interacting with the real users at this point. So that's why you really can't omit. And also, it could help us in reducing the costs. Because imagine you develop something, deploy, and then ship it out, and the users start using. And something is wrong with it. So you understand that at the wrong point because you have spent so much money on development, so much money on marketing, and etc. So if you can identify these issues before it goes to the market, that would reduce a lot of costs for you. That's why you need to test your designs. Also, it could increase user satisfaction because when you're talking to users, you can understand what are the issues they have. They will tell these are the problems that we have. So when you're doing a UT, you can understand these problems by talking to the users. So you can fix them before you develop. Also, like I said before, you can talk to people and identify whether there are any changes that's required. So these are few of the reasons why you need to test your designs. There's a lot more. So those who have done a remote UT or a usability test of some kind would know that these three are the type of people who you will meet. So there's a moderator or the facilitator. This person will be conducting the user test. And then there's the observer. So the job role of the observer is to write notes down about what's going on when it comes to the UT, so that the moderator can freely focus on conducting the UT. And there's the participant, the person who we are testing the app or the software with. So when I'm doing the presentation today, I will be referring to the usability test as a UT. So don't be confused, because that's the norm for us. Okay, so let's get started. When you're doing a usability test or a UT, you need to recruit the participants. So there are different ways that people handle this one. When it comes to UTs, there are ways that you can do it cheap, and also there are ways that you can do it in an expensive manner by buying tools that's specialized for this kind of tasks. But today what I'm going to talk about is you can do this free by using Google tools such as Google Forms, Sheets, Slides, etc. So talking about recruiting, some of you may have a pool of participants or volunteers who are willing to come to a UT, or else you may be starting from scratch. So if you already don't have a pool, what you can do is you can gather participants by using a Google form. I will show you in a bit. So what you can put in this form is some questions that you need to identify what participants are there, like the base of the participants, like basic demographic questions you can ask, things like age range, gender, income level, if that's required for your project. But all of these should be derived from your target segments. So apart from these questions, you can ask other questions related to usability tests, like whether they do grocery shopping and how often. So that also depends on your project. So what I took today as an example is an app for a supermarket. That's why I included questions like grocery shopping. So you can also include other sections that will have things related to availability and time slots. So let me show you an example. This we call the screener. This form we can call the screener. So first of all, we collect email addresses and age range and the income level, because I'm thinking of something like a supermarket. So, but these questions should be tailored to the product that you are testing. This is just an example. And these are the questions you can ask regarding your product. And these are the questions you can ask regarding the availability, whether people are interested in doing a UT and whether they are comfortable communicating through Hangouts or Teams or Google Meet or something else, because some people are not very comfortable when it comes to video calling. So you might need to get that as well. Also check their availability. If you have a couple of dates, include that as well, so that they can select the date that they are most available. And then ask them to select preferred time slots. Also ask them their contact information so that you can contact them afterwards. But all of these information is up to you as a researcher to decide, because you may have already asked these questions before if you have a pool of participants. Also mention the approximate duration of the user test so that you can see whether it fits in their schedule. And make sure the important questions are marked as required. So at this point, when you're creating the screener, you may already have an idea about how many people you want for the UT and the number of people for each category. So let me explain you in the next slide about what this category I mean. So by this point, make sure that you write down all of, you put down all of these in a Google form before you share, and also have an idea about how many people you are going to test this with. After you have shared this and people filled this form, you can create a matrix of the respondents. So there might be like 25, 30 people as an example signed up for this, but you only need like 10 people. So if you have that in mind and if you create the matrix, it would be something like this for just this example. If you remember, I was going to talk about grocery shopping and having an app. So in this side, I have whether they buy whether they buy groceries every day, or a week, or per month, or rarely. So these are my age levels, like age ranges. So those who buy groceries every day, I'm going to recruit 4 people. So few times a week, I'm going to recruit 3 people. Few times a month, I'm going to recruit 3 people. And rarely, I'm going to recruit 1 person. So make your matrix of how many people you want to recruit. And then depending on that matrix, you can call people and confirm with them. Moving on. So when you finalize the kind of people that you want to be recruited, better call them, because people don't check their emails all the time. Better call them and ask whether they are still up for this UT. And then check their time slot as well, just informally maybe. And then when they're okayed, you can send them invites, like a Google Calendar invite. So sorry, one second. So also mention what kind of apps and software they need to have with them before they're doing the UT. So what I do is I call them up and then ask whether they're okay with the time slots and the date, and then I send an email. It looks like this, but you can always tailor it to your needs. So mention the date and then the things that they need to have with them. It could be a laptop, a PC, or even a phone, and mention that they need to have a good internet connection, a Google Meet, or any other type of software that you need, earphone headset with a microphone. Also mention that we'll be sharing, like tell them how it's supposed to go. Tell them we'll be sharing a prototype with them, and then they'll have to share the screen with us, and also that we will be recording the screen for research purposes. So this is once again a sample. You can always change it based on your needs. After that's done, we'll go to the next step. So this is where you create the assets ready before you move on with the UT. So first step would be to create a prototype. Pretty sure you already have an idea about what a prototype is. If you don't, it means that you create your screens first. You design the screens on a software like Sketch or Affinity Designer or something else, and then you create a prototype from that. So you can create a clickable prototype using something like InVision. That's a very easy tool. So create the prototype and make sure that you can share a link or something similar to a real prototype with the participants. Otherwise, they won't be able to have a look at it. So it may look like this. It may work on your phone. It may work on your laptop. And then next would be to create a UT protocol. This is a very important step. I hope you don't skip this if you're going to do a UT. So this is a document that will act as a guideline when you're conducting the UT. So first of all, you need to identify which part of the prototype, which part of the app or the website you're going to test. Then you have to create a prototype based on that. So when you identify and write down which type of flows or tasks you're going to test, then you need to create a task for each type of flow. I will show you an example. So this is a task here. So when you're testing a particular flow, it's best if you can create a situation that makes them feel like they can relate to it. so that they feel like they are doing a real task. So here, what I'm thinking of testing is the information architecture of the app. But I can't tell, let's go check check the information architecture. Instead of that, I make it sound like a task. So the task here is to imagine you have a new app of your favorite supermarket, and now you're looking for vegan smoothies. And where would you find that? So that would be the task that we would give. And then write other questions that comes to your mind when you're writing down the task. You don't have to ask all of these questions, but this document will act as a guideline. So if you forget something, and or if you get nervous, because that's bound to happen, you can always steer back by using this guide. So write any type of questions that comes to your mind. You can always improvise when you're doing the actual UT. So after you have created a task and a set of questions for each type of task that you're testing, let's go to the next one. So there's something called, we use a data login sheet to write down the notes that is for the observer. So the observer has, like I mentioned before, the observer has to take notes while the moderator is conducting the UT with the participant. So for the ease of the observer, we can create a proper data login sheet that looks something like this. So you can write the name of the participant and create one section like this for each task. This is also very customizable. This is my own version, but you can create anything that suits you. So write down the things that you want to test. Also write down, keep a space for the observer to write their comments. So the observer is the one who's taking notes down. They can, I think I made a mistake over here. Yeah, so the observer can write anything that comes to their mind, like a conclusion or what they actually see when it comes to the UT. So the observer also can give a rating. If the user or the participant found out how to do the task properly quite easily, they can put 0. If it takes more than 1 minute, they can put 1. And if it takes even longer than that, or if they are very lost, they can put 2. So all of these are customizable. You can edit it on like any way you want. Also, we ask the participant to give us a rating when the tasks are done. So that would be again from 1 to 7, 1 being very difficult and 7 being very easy. So if the participant found it really easy to do, they will say 7. And you can write that rating down as well. Sometimes when the moderator is moderating, they will ask the participant, can you tell me the reason why you used that rating for this task? And then they will elaborate a little bit more on why they give that particular rating. So you can write that comment also down here. So this is again, keep in mind that you can edit in any way that you want, whatever that suits you. Also, we have something called a final questionnaire. So now this final questionnaire is something that you can create on a Google form. This is to get an overall feedback on the app that they just tested or the product that they just tested. So you can create questions you need to ask regarding the app, and you can use a 7-point Likert scale to gather the answers and analyze later, because that's very easy. So this is a sample question I have. The question is, how is it useful? And then they can select something between 1 or 7. So again, if the moderator wants, they can ask the reason why they gave that rating, and you can note things down. So these are the assets that you need when you're preparing for a UT. So on the day of the UT, first of all, you can join the call on time. You as a moderator and the observer, both of you need to join the call on time. Even 1 or 2 minutes beforehand would do. Also check with the participant. Just call them via your not through internet, some other method. Call them and ask whether they are able to join, or if they get late, whether they have any technical difficulties, or whether you can sort it out. Just be friendly and ask. And then before you start the actual UT, make the participant comfortable by asking few intro questions. Because if you just go to the UT straight away, they will feel a little alienated because this is not happening face to face. And that is a little awkward because that's not natural. So make sure you talk to them a bit, like you can ask any question, whether they are busy or something, or else you can also ask some other basic demographic questions like now we were talking about a supermarket, so you can ask about whether they have a supermarket nearby or whether they went shopping yesterday or today, or like make it like an icebreaker, but also you can gather information from them. So don't straight away go into the UT. And then when you're conducting the UT, give the participant time to answer or do the task because they might be having some network issues, or they might be people who take a little bit of time to process things. Some people are like really quick, but some people take some time. So give them some time because we don't know what's happening and we can't always see their facial expressions and body language. And when you're testing, mention that you're not testing them, but the product. And tell them that there are no right or wrong answers. They can be honest and give their honest feedback. Otherwise, they will feel like we are testing them, and then they will feel like whether they have to prove something to us. So make sure that it's not there. And then before recording the screen, mention that you're going to record the screen. Just double check if they didn't see the email. And be curious. You can always ask probing questions, like if they say something, you can always ask a why. The reason why we do a remote usability test or a normal usability test is to find out why, because you can actually talk to the participant and then get inside their head. So always ask questions, but be patient because don't start bombarding questions at the participant. Give them some time, but ask questions because that is the main reason why we're doing that. Don't forget it. And then finish off with the final questionnaire. Sometimes you might forget that, but the observer has to remind. So don't forget about the final questionnaire because that's how you get the overall idea of how they perceived the app or the software. You can also ask them questions. I think I mentioned this earlier. When they are giving a rating, you can always ask why, and they might be able to clarify even further. And then give them incentives after the UT. So most of the time, people volunteer or ask to be a participant in the UTs is because of the incentives, and that is normal behavior. So you can, when it comes to doing a remote UT, you're not there actually. So you can give them an incentive, something like an online gift card, or you can figure things out. Something online would be really easy. So make sure they have all of these after the UT as promised. And then don't forget to debrief with your observer. So this is a very important step that I think you shouldn't skip, because when you're conducting the UT, when you're actually doing the remote test or doing the normal test, as an observer or as a moderator, you might miss something or misunderstand something. So after every UT, when the participant's gone, you can talk with each other, take about 15 to 20 minutes, and then go through everything, all of the flows and what the participant did and did not. So then you can finalize, and it's really easy when it comes to analyzing the data. And you don't have to, most of the time you might not want to go through the recordings, because if you have written down everything correctly and spoken about it and debriefed correctly, then you don't have to do that again. So after the UT, first of all, you have to analyze your UT findings from the data login sheet that you have. Go through all of it, and then if there are any ratings, if you really want the ratings, you can analyze that as well, and then sum it up and average it. So how I usually do it is okay. So there's something called a duty report. That's where we have all of the insights and things that we found. So in the duty report for each task, please mention what are the things that went right, what are the things that needs to have need improvements, and what are the new insights that you find. Also, you can, if you wrote down any quotes, even if you can track down from a video, that would do. If you find any quotes that could leverage your point, maybe you can use that in your report as well. So how I do is, at the end of the report, I also have a summarized version of the ratings, like an average. Let's say people thought it's useful, like the rating is 6 point or 6.5 out of 7. So mention that as well. But all of these, the things that I told you today, are very customizable to your needs. So you can do it any way you want. And then when you finalize the report, check it with your supervisor or your team, and then present the findings to the stakeholders. So the stakeholders are business owners, your other clients. And then if there are any changes that needs to be done, you can iterate on your designs if that's needed. And it's really ideal if you can test it once again, but that's not always practical. So if you have written down the insights and got the ideas correctly, most of these things don't need to be there, but it's really good if you can test it once again. So yeah, we have come to the end of the session. If you have any questions, okay, let's check on the questions. Okay, let me. When you're working with clients, if they don't know who they want to test the product for, when working with clients, if they don't know who they want to test a product for, what data can you use to help them identify, recruit the right participants? Yes, that's why I didn't mention it, because that should have been done in the first phase. If I can show you my first slides. There we have, yeah. So here you can see from in this process, there are 5 stages. That also depends on the company that you're working for. So all of these things should be identified in the research phase. That is the first phase. So now if they don't know who they want to test the product for, maybe you can do a small research. So this is a test. We're testing the screens, but that is not equal to a research. So first of all, they should have done the UX research and identified their target segments. So, and then maybe you have heard about a persona when you create a target segment. I'm not sure how useful this is for you, but yes, they should do a research first and then find out what kind of people will use this. You can also do a survey if you don't have a way of doing this at the moment. So you can include questions like in this slide, you can see that the age range and the income level, those questions you can use to find information about the people. Like for UX research, you can use information like that. Also, you need to add a lot more questions to find out who will be the target audience for this. Where do you usually get these participants? Is it also good use like user testing platform? Yes, you can use a user testing platform, but it's really expensive sometimes. There are tools called Hotjar, Maze. I'm not sure whether Optimal Workshop has one for remote testing, but you can always use online platforms. It's pretty expensive, so doing all the work on your own is cheap, I think, definitely. That's why. But you can always use platforms like this. So if if you're not using online platforms, the way you can find participants is you can create a screener like this and get the target audience from the research that you did. Or else if you want do something really, really quick, you can post on your Facebook and ask your friends to share it among them, and then share this link so that people will sign up for this if they're interested, and then you can find out people, those who are suitable for this test. Do you use any online platforms for remote UTs? Right now we don't because of the cost. That's why we're using this method. But yes, you can use. Hi, is there any way to get the copy of the presentation? Absolutely, I will share it with you. Do we have any questions? Seems like we don't have questions. Yeah, if you have any questions, I will share my email address and my LinkedIn profile with WTM Manila. You can get it from them and you can ask me any questions you want. You can also reach me out from my Facebook page. What's the maximum count of UTs for a single researcher in a day? Do you have recommendations? Yes, I would love to talk about this. I have done like 5, 6 or 7 per day, and it's extremely tiring because again, it depends on the length of your UT, the duration of the UT. So normally our UT stands like, if you're testing a lot of things, it would take about 1 hour, something close to that. So if you're going to do that, it's pretty tiring. If you have like more than 5 per day, try to restrict to like 4, because you need to have like a half an hour gap in between for you to debrief with the observer and the moderator. So give yourself some time. It's really tiring than you think. So yeah, I would recommend something like 4 to 5, but not more than that. For beginner UXer, what are your tips for us doing UT? Tips, I would say do tests with your peers. So test with the group that you have. Maybe you have other UXs that you are working with. Test it with them. Test it with other maybe employees in your company. Like do like a guerrilla testing. Go to them 5 minutes, just have a chit chat, and then show a few screens and have a conversation. So I think being a UXer is also being a people's person. That's part of your job. Maybe you are not an extreme extrovert. You don't have to be. Neither am I. But it's sort of people's job. So make sure you're comfortable with people. So when you're doing a UT, I think that's one of the skills that comes in handy. Because if you are uncomfortable and if you're nervous, the participant tends to be even more nervous than you. So make sure you are comfortable and try to get to people to test your designs at a small level, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just talk to them and see, hey, do you want to check out these screens? Can you tell me how you would do this? Like ask them in the lunch break or when you're having coffee. Be friendly, but don't bother people. So yeah, I think that that would be a tip that I would give. Okay. So I really didn't think that there would be people interested in doing UTs and being UXers. I'm so glad. What's the biggest adjustment that you did transitioning to remote UTs compared to doing it in person? Biggest adjustment would be doing it all on my own, because normally when it comes to doing in-person UTs, we usually give the recruitment part to research companies because it's a bit of work. But now, since we are not using that method at the moment, I have to do all of this on my own. And when I was trying it out, it was a little bit difficult because I had to do a lot of research, like read a lot of articles and see, like test it with other people and see which works the best for me. So I think that is one of the things. And the other thing is a lot of people have technical difficulties. So you have to be like really patient with them. And then sometimes when you're saying something, they're already talking from the other end. There's a bit of a lag. So being patient is another big adjustment, I would say. Okay, it seems we can have like 2 minutes and then we can close the webinar if there are no additional questions. What's your usual time frame from prep phase to actual UTs? That again depends on what I'm testing and the depth of the product. So if I'm not testing something really huge, if the UT can last for like 30 minutes, it would mostly take me like 4 days for preparing and conducting the UTs and finalizing the report. So 4 to 5 days, a week would do. But if it's like a big UT that we have to prepare from a long time, it would take about 1.5 weeks. That again, like everything depends on what you're testing. But if it's a small one, 1 week would do. Before I finish off, can I know how many of you are UX designers? Queenies, we don't have. Oh, there's a UX researcher. That's great. Do you have any book recommendations for UT? Actually, I can't say so because I read a lot online. I'm not a very book person these days. So I just search things that comes to my mind or like follow links when reading articles. So Medium is a good source. There are a lot of other articles. I just type and read. So I'm sorry, I can't really say that I have any book recommendations. That's super. Ingrid is a UX researcher. High five. I think we don't have any more questions or comments. Shall we wrap it up then? Sure. Also, please let me know how useful it is for you because I would really love to hear your feedback and whether you got something from this. And if you have any recommendations for me, please go ahead and let me know. Okay, thank you so much. Then we can wrap this up, it seems. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for inviting me.
We all have our own biases of how things work. Like how would I design things? Like why would I design things in a certain way? Because in my head, I'm the one who's gonna use it. But in reality, right, what about everybody else? How are they gonna use this product?
In your team, you need to create that safe space that they can say whatever they want to say within the context of work pa rin, syempre. Like if there's a certain process that needs to be cut, or if they think that we're having too many meetings in a week, sige, let's consider removing some.
Most of us are using mobile devices. Most of us are spending time online. So cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.